Maybe. All right. Wanted to have this chat with you about what we're going to do with group level merge rules and ultimately branch rules at the project level and what direction we want to head in. Yeah. So recently we inherited or like the group level merge rules. So that's like approval rules at the group level. That was something that was in the compliance group, but now that's moved over to our group. And that's cool because we were looking at how branch rules may relate at the group level as well. So I feel like that's a natural kind of spot for this feature. But I think there's a lot of eyes and customers wanting to see that happen, and like the group level merge rules. And yeah, I want to see it happen as well. And yeah, I guess this chat here is probably just a sync call between you and I, just to see, where do we want to take this, and where do we see this happening, whether it's the next milestone or a few milestones from now. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about the situation and what you feel like we should head to next, because I have my own opinions and I just want to see if we align, or if you want to hear my opinions first, that's cool too.
No, I can tell you what my opinion is. I mean, I was and technically still am the PM for compliance, and this is something that I got asked about all the time. So, between that and looking at the issues that are out there and how many customer comments they have and upvotes, I think it's something that we need to work on sooner rather than later. I think that it's something that would add a lot of value for our customers. So in my opinion, it should be a pretty high priority for the source code team. And that's and I don't know all the details and all the issues around what it will take to implement it, but I think that it should be a high priority.
Cool. Yeah, so from my perspective, looking at this problem from the group to the project level, I probably have less time spending looking at the problem. I know that I contributed to the idea of, if a setting's configured at the group level, then we'll show like a lock icon and then display information around why it's locked at that level. A few months has passed since that initial kind of concept I just threw out there, and like we've been running with that. I feel like to tackle this properly, we need to handle two things. It's that cascading. We need to make a decision about whether this applies to future only or current and future. And my opinion is that it applies to current and future. And the big question would be like, oh, what about projects that don't need to follow the rules? There's always going to be exceptions in an organization, especially if you're thinking about group level. I feel why this situation is actually good is that to solve this, I think we need to do both the locking or like a read-only view of the settings if it's set from a group level, but also provide a pathway for providing exceptions. So we can provide exceptions by saying whether we do it project only or subgroups and projects, that is like ideally subgroups and projects. But if we need to start small and just select individual projects, so be it. But I feel like this kind of paradigm of providing exceptions also aligns with some of the work that's being done at the security policy level, where they have different rules that you can provide exceptions for. So this idea of exceptions is something that's happening at the security policy level, but it doesn't really exist right now in the world of settings. All we have is like include this for branches. And I think as we extend this out to the group level, we need to provide not only include these projects, maybe that's it. Like it's like here's a list, and then you deselect a project as a way to provide exclusions. So I think that's where we probably need engineering input on what's possible, what's not possible. I think providing exceptions is probably clearer and aligns with security policies, but that's my thing, where I feel like looking at this from a compliance level, I think the cascading down and locking was the one perspective, but I think the fact that we couldn't answer what do we want to do for exceptions, because that would be like crossing over into the project level settings or like group level settings, and it's like, oh, that's source code. And I feel like that's why moving this over to source code is actually more advantageous, because we as the source code group could make those changes. And I know we have short toes, but it was like an area that you almost, it's a tricky one to find that fine line, where does compliance end and where does source code begin. And I think by removing that kind of barrier, we can tackle this as that two-pronged things, to provide read-only cascading down and a way to provide exceptions. And that's how I've been approaching the problem, and that's how I want to push forward with this. Maybe before I lock everything down, like, are there any like concerns or like, things that we haven't accounted for, or do we need to align closer to policies? Do we need to figure that out before we tackle this and like go full steam on this?
I don't know that we need to. I don't know that we need to align closer with policies, because the way that I see it, there are two ways of, well, possibly three different ways of doing things, and it depends on what user you're trying to target with it, like what persona, right? So security and compliance teams, I think if the policies group added a way to enforce this stuff, the settings via policies, that might take care of the security and compliance teams, but source code is more interested in the developer experience, right? So adding this and adding a way to have exceptions, especially now, I don't think that we would want the project owners to be able to add their own exception for their project. We'd want to keep that at the group level where this policy or these settings were set, and allow ways for group owners to exempt certain projects. But if we do that, then the policies team, I think that it might be better for them to align with what we're doing, because the developer experience and locking down these things really should come first. The compliance team is a little bit of a oddball, because these are things that you could theoretically put into like a compliance framework and selectively apply it to different projects, which I think could be handled separately from the way that you're looking at doing the group rules right now. Because I think that we could replicate some of the settings in the compliance framework area and allow users to set those specifically for compliance frameworks, and then those would apply selectively to whatever project has the compliance framework enabled on it. So yeah, I think that we should probably just move forward with it. We should keep compliance and security policies updated. It would be good to make sure that they know what we're doing. And I do want to build more collaboration in certain areas. This would be one of them. But at the same time, I don't want to slow down something that could deliver a lot of value for our customers. So I'd say that we should move ahead. We should make sure that the compliance and policies teams don't have any major objections, because maybe they could point out something that we haven't thought about. And specifically, I'm thinking around, like, it'd be good to have the policies product manager Grant in there. But I think having the engineering managers look at it and kind of provide their feedback would be really good too, because they can see they would be able to think through potential issues with whatever projects they're building right now. So I think as long as we have a way to sync up with them, which we do, which I don't remember. Were you ever invited to the create, govern, sync?
No, I wasn't invited to that. Probably mainly because of the time zone of where things were, and then the PM of source code also kind of left at around the same time that I kind of got involved. So I think it's kind of boiled down to async videos, and I think Grant has been providing some good feedback on some of the ideas that I've had so far around this stuff. So that's where that's at in my eyes. But yeah, if you've been having other conversations, yeah, happy to learn more about that.
Yeah. I haven't had many other conversations about that outside of either those meetings, which I haven't been able to attend for a few weeks, or yeah, I mean, there really hasn't been much conversation that I've had. So I think we're good to go. We'll keep them updated, see what comes out of it. But I think that what you have, like what I've seen, looks really good to me. So I don't see any reason not to continue to move forward and try to get the other teams on board with it and figure out ways to solve their problems, but not cut short the developer experience.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. And then, yeah, that means for the rest of this week, I'll like kind of lock down these designs and then get that kind of ready for the next milestone for at least initial planning or better discussions with the engineering team. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I know that the security policies team is also looking at exceptions at the same time. So this might be a good time for us to just be a little bit more transparent and looping them in a lot more, because I feel like another way to look at this is like the security policies lives up at this level, and then we're providing the rails for them to like come in to provide exceptions, because at the moment there are no exceptions, and I feel like that will just come in as like a piece of code that like if has policy do some extra stuff, but maybe we provide the rails for exceptions. It kind of fits a little bit better. So I think the timing is very interesting, like very fortunate for all groups to be kind of solving this problem at the same time. Cool.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, then I'll move ahead and I'll update the issues over the next few days. Yeah, leave that on me.
Cool. Yeah. And just so you know, I'm technically doing 3 people's jobs right now. So if you tag me in an issue and you need me to look at it or provide a response, and I haven't, yet, ping me in Slack, because it's possible that I just missed it with everything else that I've got coming in.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, that's good. Good to know. Thanks. I'll stop the recording at this time.